take a little bit of a victory lap. You did a great job. There's more to come. There are more primaries ahead. If you have primaries on the ballot, get out. Make sure you're registered. Get that ballot in. It is a massive show of force. And believe me when I tell you, it is frightening the Democrats. The turnout on the Trump side was massive. So last night, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden far surpassed expectations. Listen, I don't want to underestimate anyone. A catastrophic mistake, I think we can all agree, the Democrats made in 2016 was underestimating the movement that was coalescing behind one Donald J. Trump, who is now sitting in the White House, and Democrats expected him to be sitting in the doghouse. We would be doing a catastrophic act of malfeasance on our own movement if we repeated the same mistake again. Now, last night, Biden was down in a lot of these states or was not polling well. When I say a lot of these states, I mean the states on Super Tuesday, he wound up winning or performing exceptionally well. He far surpassed expectations, which shows that while I still don't believe endorsements matter per se, in other words, I don't think people listen to other people who tell, you know what I'm saying? Like Pete Buttigieg, I'm out and vote for Joe Biden. I think Pete Buttigieg's supporters are going to make their own decision if it's not Buttigieg since he dropped out. It's not that the endorsements, I think, were game changers. I think the momentum was a game changer. I think we tend to over attribute to endorsements some political effect. And in my experience in politics, I don't think that's accurate. I don't think people vote for endorsements. However, I do think they vote for the big mo. What's a big mo? Momentum. So let's go through the states Biden did well and not only did well, but far surpassed expectations. He won Virginia, North Carolina, Alabama, Arkansas, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Texas, Oklahoma. Now, as we can see in the Wall Street Journal, they put a piece out, the Biden resurgence. You just saw that up there. Sanders won in Vermont. Colorado did pretty well in California, although not as well as he could have. And he won Utah as well. Ladies and gentlemen, the big mo matters. What happened to Bernie Sanders? Why did the Sanders campaign yesterday collapse, implode? Now, it's not over. Believe me, please do not take any of this as some gospel, me telling you the Sanders campaign is done. As I've said to you often, the power of free is huge. Sanders goes out and lies to people, tells them he's going to give them free stuff. This has power. You underestimate that at your own peril. He is not done. His campaign is nowhere close to over. He has a substantial number of delegates. He's only about, I believe, 68 to 70 delegates behind Biden right now. They need 1,991 to win. This thing is far from over. We said Biden. I thought Biden's campaign was done if Bloomberg didn't get out, and he showed yesterday after these endorsements and the big momentum that he can show, some life in his campaign too. Now, having said that, the Wall Street Journal in that piece I just showed you had some pretty good analysis. Check this out from the piece. What went wrong for Sanders? Folks, I hate to say this, but it's younger voters. And I'm not saying younger voters are the problem. I'm saying they just didn't show up. So the Wall Street Journal says, hey, Sanders can point to victories in his home state of Vermont, Colorado, Utah, and California. But the biggest night of the primaries carried warnings for the two-time candidate. He lost ground, ladies and gentlemen, from his 2016 vote share in several states, including his home state of Vermont. What does that mean? Well, it suggests, to quote the Wall Street Journal, and they're right, he isn't building this coalition with a surge of new voters as he's promised Democrats. Ladies and gentlemen, he's losing voters from the last time he ran. He's not building anything. It's nonsense. The piece goes on. Mr. Sanders also benefited from early voting, but did much more poorly among late deciders. The big mo, there you go, momentum, endorsements to win in South Carolina, the big mo. But Sanders can talk about millennials all he wants, but Mr. Biden overwhelmed him among voters over 45, who were 65% of the electorate in Virginia, 62 in Massachusetts, 64 in North Carolina, 66 in Maine, and 67% in Oklahoma, according to exit polls. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the takeaway right here. Bank on this. Older Americans vote more than young socialists. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't have any other easier way to put it. I'm not in the business of knocking younger voters and civic engagement. It's good. Go out and vote. Do your homework first, I hope. But the hard reality is, if you look at the demographic breakdown over time, a lot of younger voters just don't show up. They just don't. The numbers speak for themselves. And if Bernie Sanders was marshaling his entire campaign effort about getting young socialists who want to redistribute, people's income, because a lot of them are still in school and aren't actually earning a lot of income yet, then that was a failed campaign strategy that didn't work. I mean, it's really no more difficult than that to analyze. Okay, so that's takeaway number one. Now, A couple of other takeaways from the campaign on the Trump side, because remember, there were Republican primaries yesterday too. I want to congratulate many of you out there, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. You all did. You didn't just talk. Ladies and gentlemen, the do matters. I say this all the time. Talk is great. I hope it motivates you to action, but without action, talk is cheap and meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. Talk doesn't change the world without doers who do the changing. You did it yesterday. What happened? Even though President Trump was in a basically uncontested primary, I mean, let's be real, Bill Weld and these other candidates, no one had a chance. President Trump is going to be the Republican nominee for the presidency. It's obvious at this point. Despite that, and no real reason, tactically speaking, to show up, I said to you, you have to do it anyway. I begged you, please go out and vote. And for all those primaries that haven't happened yet, there are tons of them. Florida's coming up March 17th and others. Please, folks, you got to get out there and vote for President Trump regardless. I already mailed my ballot in. I know Paula did hers too. You did it. Alabama yesterday in the primary on the Republican side. President Trump had almost 2 times the votes of almost any other presidential primary candidate ever, despite the fact that he's the inevitable nominee. Colorado, turnout was higher than the last 3 GOP primaries combined for President Trump. Texas, more votes for President Trump than they've seen in the last 40 years for a GOP candidate. Folks, he's already the sitting president, but you did it anyway. Folks, I'm not into downplaying or underselling the Democrats' efforts and get out the votes and GOTV efforts and the fact that it's going to be a difficult election, whether it's Biden or Sanders. I'm not downplaying their effort. That's a catastrophic mistake. But I'm here to tell you today, take a little bit of a victory lap. You did a great job. There's more to come. There are more primaries ahead. If your primaries on the ballot, get out. Make sure you're registered. Get that ballot in. It is a massive show of force. And believe me, when I tell you it is frightening the Democrats. The turnout on the Trump side was massive.
You just heard the Dan Bongino Show. You can also get Dan's podcasts on iTunes or SoundCloud and follow Dan on Twitter 24/7 @DBongino.